Hi, this is Don Mackey from LCAT. As the school district and the community move toward a key turning point in the ongoing high school building project, LCAT wants to help point residents to the important information about the process. On Tuesday, November 7th, the community will be asked to vote at a special ballot election on a Proposition 2.5 debt exclusion enabling the town to borrow and repay the costs of building a new East Longmeadow High School. A separate question for a separate debt exclusion for the funding of a new swimming pool facility will also be on that ballot. We want voters to understand as clearly as possible what they will be voting on. A debt exclusion vote is permission from the voters to exclude the cost of borrowing large amounts of money from the limit imposed by Proposition 2.5 on annual increases to the tax levy. That limit is on the total levy from one year to the next. The annual repayment costs of borrowing for very large projects like schools would exceed the town's annual levy capacity without excluding such borrowing from the limit. So the vote on November 7th is only to approve the exclusion in order to allow the town to borrow for the purposes specified. One question for a high school project and one question for a pool building project, and to collect the taxes annually for repayment outside of Proposition 2.5. The exclusion lasts for the repayment term of the borrowing, anticipated in this case to be 30 years. The language of a debt exclusion question is specific and dictated by Mass General Law. Note that there is no amount specified in the ballot questions themselves. State law prohibits the amounts appearing in debt exclusion questions because the voters are not authorizing the expenditure. They are only authorizing the town to collect the repayment costs outside of the limit otherwise imposed by Proposition 2.5. The town council is the body that will vote to appropriate an amount to fund the respective projects to be raised by borrowing. Nothing can be appropriated without identifying the source that will fund the appropriation, and so in this case, both appropriations will be funded by borrowing. The amounts to be appropriated for the high school building project and the pool project will be determined by August 31st, when the project scope and budget for the school must be finalized and submitted to the MSBA for approval. The scope and budget for the pool project will be determined at the same time, but there is no submission to the MSBA for the pool. The council will then act on a motion to appropriate the amounts specified in the respective budgets. Those votes are expected to take place in September, so voters will have defined budget numbers with which to vote on the debt exclusions.